Welcome to I Wish You Could Hear This, where we explore great stories and simple proven steps to help you thrive in life, faith, and relationships.
In our research, we've heard hundreds of hope-filled strategies for marriage, parenting, leadership, and life that are grounded in science and consistent with biblical truth. And now you can hear them too.
I'm Shaunti Feldhahn.
And I'm Jeff Feldhahn.
So a few months ago, we were at an annual retreat for Christian marriage leaders, authors, marriage pastors, podcasters, so on. We love this retreat because it always allows us to kind of support each other in marriage ministry. And so one evening, there's a silent disco, and everybody was completely jamming to one particular song. You know that hit from the 90s, "This is how we do it." Now, why was everyone there so into it? Well, because Montel Jordan, who sang that song, and his wife Kristin were at the retreat for marriage ministry leaders. They're our friends. Now, how did Montel and Kristin go from the celebrity-oriented world of R&B to serving others in marriage ministry? And what can the rest of us learn from their journey and what they have learned about marriage?
Montel and Kristin, thank you first for being our friends and for joining us on our podcast. So we are so grateful to have you here.
Thank you so much. And let me start out by saying the fact that you committed to actually singing the song, that says everything we need to know about the transparency and the authenticity and the commitment that y'all have and we have.
In front of you. Yes. Exactly. There we go.
You know, she
shy away
sang
from
it.
that. You didn't shy away from that.
No, she didn't. And she was the one singing, not me.
Yeah.
We wanted to keep the listeners. So, you know, most people are familiar with you two. But let's get everyone on the same page. Can you tell us a little bit about your story, both of you? Because both of you came from the music industry world, correct?
Absolutely.
That is correct. Yeah, I think our story goes back to a time when I was flirting to convert. I was a guy who was brought up in church. My wife had people in ministry like.
I was a heathen.
You were a heathen. Okay, gotcha. Just glad we're on the same page about that.
So not true, but I was brought up in a religious space, not a relationship space. And so I knew a lot about the technical things of ministry to do from childhood. And by the time that we met and started our journey together, dating a couple of years right before that song, "This Is How We Do It," comes into play. And then we enter the music industry as husband and wife secretly, but openly. She's manager. I am recording artist, and that was our entryway into the world of musicianship, of artistry, of world travel, of touring, of notoriety, of fame, all of that, with our marriage being the undercover thing that we wanted to keep hidden from the world, and the label wanted to keep hidden from the world. And that is basically the origins.
They told us that we wouldn't sell records. A married R&B singer would not sell records. Nobody wants to support.
No one wants an unavailable R&B artist. And
oh man,
a wifeager. Yeah, I grew up with the moniker of you're going to be successful. Everything you touch is blessed. You're going to be great in business. This is going to be the thing. So when I hear somebody tell me you're not going to be successful at the thing that you've created all this space and time for, it was like, no, I think I'm good with people not knowing then. And the truth is that we set ourselves up for a fail, but we didn't know it.
Right.
Didn't know it at the time. Was how much was faith part of your life?
So,
well, I know you were a heathen.
I was a heathen when I started. You know, when we first started dating, I was 19 years old. By the time, so 93. So this would have been, I would have been like 21.
Mm-hmm.
You were just a baby.
But I got saved and radically saved. And so it was one of those things where it was like, as ridiculous as I was in the world, was as on fire as I was for Jesus. So it became kind of a quest. So there was a season where we kind of broke apart, and he was like,
I became the heathen at that point because the reality of it was that I knew church, and the best way I put it, you guys, is I said I was always in church, but church wasn't always in me.
Mm.
And so even though I had the church technical pedigree type of stuff, I didn't have the relationship. And so she ended up getting the relationship with the living God, with Jesus, prior to us getting married. And when she found Jesus, that started a whole different chase of relationship, because she's chasing God, I'm chasing her, God is chasing me, and we have this weird cycle of nobody being able to catch each other. And then eventually God catches me, and I stop chasing her and I start chasing him. And then you got two people that are kind of now chasing after God as opposed to chasing after each other.
Oh,
And
that's
so
cool.
that's kind of how we came to each other prior to getting into the music business side of everything.
So we were on fire for the Lord when we, funny, I used to carry that CD in my Bible on the way to church, convinced, 100% convinced we were selling 1 million records no matter what.
Your Bible should have caught on fire. My first CD, the demo CD, she had it in her Bible and would take that into the church to pray over it, and the Bible did not consume it. Didn't. So apparently, God had a plan that He was going to use that for good at some point in time.
Wow. So you're in the music career still. God has chased you down, both of you. How did marriage ministry?
Just ministry?
Yeah, how did
just
ministry
because
kind of start?
You go from being this like huge R&B star, everything like in the world, everybody coming after you, and then you feel this calling.
And is it running on parallel tracks, or is it an all or nothing type thing?
The best way I can answer that is, if you want to know how something ends, I think you have to look at the beginning. And so we started out, we hid our marriage as we were explaining. And from that standpoint, in the music industry, in the music business, our journey then started of how do you honor a husband and wife if you're not putting your marriage first, if you're putting music first, if you're putting career first, you're putting a lot of different things first. And so we didn't go to seminary. We went to cemetery. Cemetery for us was the music business. We had to go there, and a lot of things had to die in order for the marriage portion of what we would eventually be living to come alive. So our first several years of marriage were almost like non-existent, because we lived together, but mostly we worked together, we toured together, we built something together. When we could have been building our marriage, we built careers, we built infrastructure, we built businesses. And so, whatever you feed grows, and those are the things that eventually grew. And then our marriage becomes malnutrition. But even with that being said, we were some of the anomalies in the business. And when it came to relationship with God, even though we were babes in this whole following Jesus fully and infiltrating the music business, the Lord had our hearts. The Lord had given us a marriage, but it was infantile. It was like in baby stages. And so we were literally in the music business and trying to find church and find ministry wherever we could to try and feed our marriage behind the scenes, whereas the industry was our outward display to the rest of the world.
Absolutely. And for us, like, once it came to light that we were married, and that was kind of that was hilarious. We were at the MTV.
Once you were outed.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, why would
we were at
do
MTV and we were on the red carpet. Now, up to this point, nobody knows, right? And then, so we're walking the red carpet at MTV, and the guy says, "So who do you have with you?" And normally he says, "Oh, this is my manager, Kristin, da da da." And he says, "Well, this is my wife." I was like, "What are you doing?" But so that was how that all came to pass. But
Good for you.
it was hilarious. It was so nonchalant. And then the minute he said it, he was like, but once that came to pass, I think what we learned, and we were in the midst, let's just say we were in the belly of the beast. When we figure out that, wait a minute, all these things are happening, we kind of have a culmination of where we get into a crisis. And we have to come to what's really important kind of thing. And so as we get this come to Jesus, we end up getting sent away to a retreat center that ends up saving our life, but really it opens our eyes to say, hey, what's important? Who's really on your team? What is really opposing you? What are the things that are important?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we end up getting back on track for us. But then it kind of sparks this is more important than that, because this has a potential to last. This is temporary.
Yeah, and can I add some color to that statement? The crisis.
Sure.
The crisis was I was unfaithful in our marriage and living a double lifestyle of trying to be an artist, trying to be this desirable X, Y, and Z, and hide my marriage. Little by little, over a short period of time, being out of church, being out of the Word of God, loving God, and still not being fully in a position to be submitted to Him. I little by little allow the enemy to creep in and infiltrate our marriage. And so from that standpoint, that then becomes this place that starts leading me and then leading us and our firstborn child down a destructive pattern of hidden guilt, shame, not knowing how to. I've heard someone once describe it as like a spider web. Like the more you try and get out of it, the more entangled you tend to get. And so, in order to get free, we were then faced with a decision that dealt with: is the industry more important to you than your marriage? Is your family more important than your marriage? And we did have a pastor that sent us away to a retreat once we had come to grips with I am willing to lose everything to save my marriage. I'm willing to give up fame. I'm willing to give up everything. Both of us, pride.
Whole deal.
It took us to come to that, and that's a place I think that a lot of people don't arrive at. Like when it comes to someone's very productive career or keeping a marriage, a lot of times they will keep the career, or they will choose their children. They'll choose other things over choosing the marriage. And so I would say what started to qualify us to now be who we are in marriage was that we were willing to allow everything else to die so that our marriage could live.
Thrive.
And it's so easy to justify otherwise.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I need to provide for my family. Well, it's so easy to sort of kid yourself, basically.
So I'd love to ask. So post retreat, post you guys making this kind of decision, did you have folks that you looked up to that served as role models in this? I mean, because you're kind of in an industry that didn't necessarily
They wanted them
have
to
that.
hide their marriage.
Exactly. So how did you get from there to here?
The truth is that in this we learned how to die to ourselves, and we got our neology degree right here.
Your neology. That's awesome.
And I literally learning to listen, God, like you're going to have to show me how to trust Him again. And the Lord was very specific with me, and He said, I'm not asking you to trust Him. I'm asking you to trust the me in Him, and I'll deal with everything after that.
Yeah, and we developed to become what we did not have.
Correct.
So we did not have an industry married couple that we could go to that said, hey, you guys are navigating this. You need to put this in play. You guys need to be in a devotional. You need to be in other community with healthy married couples in the business, or you need to be rooted and grounded. We didn't have any of that. We literally had whatever church we could get when we were out on the road. The fact that we were some of the most spiritual people out in the industry at that time is really scary because we love Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what we had. We love Jesus, and we know that there's truth in the Word of God. But as far as wise counsel, instruction, guidance, correction, all of those things we did not have. And even when we could settle long enough to be in a church, there were difficulties and challenges in leadership that, Aaron's beard, in other words, it was a situation where as the head goes, so goes the body.
Yeah.
And so there were lots of situations where even leadership that we were under were navigating their own challenges, their own situations.
Gotcha.
And so finding refuge.
And we didn't know
We didn't
the
know it.
time. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
And so, like, we were living out the exact pattern that was being modeled for us. Well, we didn't even know, but spiritually,
It was
it's
happening.
still in effect. Like
Yeah.
the spiritual laws of Aaron's beard still work.
If
Right.
your leader has something hidden and they're still very, very highly functional and highly anointed in what they do, but there's something hidden, like Aaron's beard, I can have something hidden too, and I can be highly functional and highly successful, and people don't know that there's something hidden in me, And
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that
so
was the
that was the unraveling. But the truth is that in our come to Jesus, and once the funny thing is that for me, once I get a word from the Lord, I have clarity because it's not how I feel or what I think or what that looks like. I'm very resolved in when God says, "Stay, you and your daughter's life depend on it." I don't know what that means, but I do know you know more than me. And I choose what you say. And so help me figure this out. Help me walk this out. Help me to take the next steps, to do the next thing. And it wasn't here's the big plan. Here's the next step. Here's what tomorrow looks like. And I think a lot of people get caught up in that too, of that, well, I need to know what the plan's going to look like because it can't. Yes. Also, what's tomorrow look like? What's today look like?
That's so good.
I got to walk this faith out day by day. It says the renewing your mind daily. This is literally the manifestation of every day renewing your mind.
So you guys are rebuilding your marriage. And Kristin, you're trying as best you can to listen to the Lord about that day by day. Montel, I'm sure you were doing something pretty similar, as you're trying to figure out what we're going to actually build a good marriage looks like, right? So let's skip forward just a step because I'm going to go back to that. We want to talk about some of the lessons that you share with people in a minute, but I want to keep going into this. Okay, now you're being called into ministry. And you shared a story at one point, Montel, about something that just switched in your brain when something happened on Twitter.
Yeah.
And that, I'm sorry, it made me laugh. And I think people would benefit from hearing what switched.
On this journey back to placing our marriage at the forefront of what we were doing, a lot of fires had to be put out. Because just if you would imagine it, at one point our marriage was kind of on fire. And then once God preserved that, it was like, okay, well, the enemy doesn't have any new tricks. So he started burning down other things around us. He allowed our home to burn down. He allowed our finances to burn down. He allowed fame to burn down. Like God allowed some of these things for us to be refined. I think the enemy was trying to burn up some things, but for us, God was refining us. And so during this period where we were no longer in the home we were in, we're renting now, we're in a whole different space of time. I am out spending some time with my son, Skylar. At the time, he's maybe 6 or 7 years old. And when I'm with family, I really try and put my phone away. I try and be completely focused. So I went to the park to play catch with him, and I took my phone, I set it in the car, and I went out in the park with Skylar for about 2.5 hours. By the time I got back to the car, my phone is blowing up. It's like literally my phone is almost hot. One, from sitting in the car, and two, from the amount of messages that have been coming through on my phone. And immediately, I can see these messages. Are you okay? Where are you? Are you okay? And I looked, and saw that something had happened on Twitter that said a fake CNN account posted Montel Jordan was found dead in his downtown Atlanta condominium. And
my question is, where's the condom? No,
yeah. Well, when I read that, I'm immediately like, whoa, like where did this come from? And then I can look and see there's like 70, 80 messages on my phone. And so my immediate thought was, which is a weird thought, it was like, everybody thinks I'm dead right now. And then I've always wondered what it would be like to be at your own funeral. So I start kind of scrolling through to read.
I hope you call Kristin first.
Now, in my view, I'm freaking out because our publicist calls us and goes, "Where's Montel?" I was like, "At the park with Skylar." She's like, "Are you sure?" I was like,
"Yeah,
I think so." So then, of course, I call. He doesn't answer, and then I'm like,
So I definitely hit her and I hit my mom, so that they know that I'm alive.
But then you start looking at what people are saying about you.
I then attend my own funeral. Wow. And what I see is R&B artist dies in an apartment. Singer of This Is How We Do It is found dead. Huge #1 song singer Montel Jordan is found dead. This Is How We Do It guys found dead. And I continue reading. My entire life was summed up into the guy who did This Is How We Do It is found dead. And I thought at that time, that cannot be everything that people have thought about me in this world. Like it cannot be my only contribution to humanity is the guy that did This Is How We Do It is found dead. And that was the journey that I would say started the what I call the ellipsis. And the ellipsis is when you read something and then you see ... meaning there's something else that comes after that. So I started living for after the ellipsis. Guy that did This Is How We Do It is found, however, ... But he did this. He helped save 1 million marriages. He was in the church. He loved Jesus. He this, he that. There had to be more than just the headline. And so that was the journey of me really starting to not just exist, but I wanted to be alive.
Thanks for listening to part 1 of this episode. We will continue with part 2 in the next episode, and you don't want to miss it. Please subscribe to our podcast to be notified when that episode drops.